Hi everyone, David Stiles here. I hope you're well. Had a few tech issues getting on my first ever live call, but it's good to be here. Just wait for people to come on the call. Okay, so what have we got? Hey, Baba, I can see you. Welcome. Please let me know if you can hear me properly. Yeah, so just waiting for people to come on the call here. And apologies for all of the technical issues that we've had. I can see Berber's here. Hi, how's it going in Finland there? Um, so we'll just wait a few moments just for people to come into the call. But it's really good to be here. Berber, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, can you hear what I'm saying here, Berber, or is it a little bit quiet on your end? Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. It's cool. So I'll just wait a little bit of time for people to come on the call. But today, what I'm wanting to do is just open up the space. I love to come into this heart space, and it's a space that I um, try to help open up to other people. Hi, Tara. Good to see you. I wish I could speak to you guys, but it's just sort of the text coming up. I might look into using Zoom in the future for these calls, so it's a bit more interactive. Just sitting here in a beautiful park in Melma. I think this is an oak tree. I'm not entirely sure. Um, it may be an elm tree. Yeah, Lena. So I'm from Australia, and thank you for being on the call here today. And currently in Malmö in Sweden, and my fiance, she's from Finland, and that's where I travel. And what I do, I used to be an engineer many moons ago, and very much connected to my head. That's a place that I used to occupy a lot. It used to occupy a lot of my attention, a lot of my awareness. Um, but spending, yeah, Australia is awesome. Love Australia too. Have you been there? If not, you should go. It's really cool. Hope you can understand my accent okay. But the engineering world, what happened, I went right up into my head and ended up having like a breakdown and ended up getting burnt out and was looking for answers, looking for a deeper sense, a deeper place of peace within me. And I didn't know where to look for that. And I went on this big search in the external world, going to workshops and doing meditations and all that sort of thing. But where I ended up finding the peace was actually in my heart, which is this space just here. And that's what I do now, is that I go around the world and open up this space for people. It's not a matter of opening up the space, but it's more about opening up the connection that you have with that space. And the inspiration has come through to share this in a deeper way with the world and to do this via live stream, which is what we're doing today. And this deeper space is always within you. And before we get on the call, I'd just like to give you a sense of that, just so that we can ground on the call today. And thank you for everyone who's on the call today. And if there's any comments, please put them in the chat. Hi, Shif. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Yeah, sadness, that can come up as well. My experience of that is that comes up when the heart isn't listened to, or the heart isn't allowed to express itself in an authentic way. But that connection is always there, and that's when we can come into the joy, we can come into the peace, we can come into those deeper senses within us. So I'd just like to ground this call just by coming into our heart And I'll lead you through one technique that I use with clients. There's many techniques. So I do a thing called the Head to Heart program, which is a 6-week program, taking people from the busyness of the mind into the peace and the calm of the heart. I'd just like to give you a sense to everyone that's on the call here today. And it's best done with the eyes closed, because when you close the eyes, you shut out around 40% of the brain. And when you have your eyes closed, just noticing a comfortable space. So you might need to move your body a little bit to find that comfortable space. And then in the middle of your chest, around here, that's what the yogis call the heart center. And it's a place where the heart is. And just with your eyes closed, just either placing a hand or a couple of fingers on that space, you notice that brings you into that space. Okay. And then with your eyes closed, you can breathe down into that space within the middle of your chest, into your heart center, just in your own rhythm. And it's just a beautiful practice just to breathe into your heart center, to breathe out from your heart center, and just to notice the feelings that are within your heart center. Okay. And as you breathe into that space within, it's almost like a jellyfish. You can imagine and feel the heart center expanding. And you can also imagine and feel the heart center contracting as you breathe into your heart center. And just noticing how that is. You'll probably notice that there's a deep sense of peace within your heart center. You probably notice there's a deep sense of calm within your heart center. And this place within, it's always a place that you can return to, because it's always there. And there's a whole world in there, which we won't go into on the call today. But I just want to give you a sense of how that is. Hi, Penny. Hi, Paramoshra. How are you, Penny? Yeah, hi, Ashan. Lovely to be with you all today. So, staying in, it's a little weird for me. This is the first time I've done a Facebook Live. I can usually see people when I run these workshops. But we'll do this. So just wondering if anyone had any questions before we get in further into this call about what the heart center is, anything that you have, any questions you have about this space within. Just going through the comments. Yeah, thank you, Penny. Love speaking from this space. It's been a long time coming, as you know. Okay, Lano, I think that's how you say your name. Your previous message, it's sort of all scrolling down at the moment. Maybe if you have another question, if you could put that in the post there. Okay, so we'll go further into the call. There's no burning questions. Hi, Naomi. It's good to see you on the call today. So this space within, the heart, it's something that's very, very dear to me. It's something that has given me a lot of peace over the years. No matter what happens in my world, there's often a lot of busyness, the craziness happens. I can tend to get locked into the busyness that is always there in life. But having connected with my heart center as an experience, it's just given me a sense of peace. It's given me a sense of solace. It's given me a place that I can always return to. And I know that everyone on the call here today, that space within you is always there as well as an experience, and it's a place that you can always go to as well. And that when we open up to that space within there's a deep wisdom within the heart of every person on the planet. And then we don't need to go to like psychologists or counselors or seeking guidance from other spiritual people or even friends and family, because there's a deeper place within our heart that we can go and we can ask that place for answers and speak its truth, you know. And that's what I love to do, is to go in that space, but also open it up for other people. And I don't know, it's a little bit strange. I'd love to hear if anyone had some questions about that space. So please feel free to write in the comments there. Okay, and not a lot of interaction in the comments, but that's okay. But what to say about the heart? Like, what is the heart? A lot of people say, "Oh, you need to follow your heart. You need to follow your heart in the world." And for me, there's like a pull on the heart. There's a pull that guides me. It takes me to certain places. It takes me to certain people. When I follow the pull of my heart, a beautiful synchronicity starts to open up, and it's this deeper space within that I continually return to. I continually go back to, and then if I go back up into my head and start to follow what my head has to say, the other thing that I notice happens is that things start to go out of alignment. Things start to sort of get a bit messed up. And it's, I don't know, it's just somewhere that I always return to. And yeah, I've just got a question come through. Thank you, Lisa. It's beautiful to hear the questions come through, and I hope you're enjoying your time over there in Australia. It's yeah, I'm sort of feeling a bit homesick today. But Lisa's got a beautiful question there. How do you clear the chatter that brings you out of the heart? And that's a really good question, because the mind is what takes us out of the heart, and the mind can get really, 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 really loud, and I've experienced that many, many times, and the voice within the heart is often very, 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 very soft, and the voice within the heart doesn't say many words at any one time. So it's this busyness of the mind can take us out of the peace and the quiet and the wisdom that resides within the heart of every person. So getting back to the question, like, how do we clear the chatter that brings us out of the heart? And it's mainly about your attention, because wherever your attention goes, that's where the energy flows. A Qigong master once told me that. So with all the busyness, all of the chatter in the mind, if you place your attention, you place your awareness on the business of the mind, then it's going to take you out of the connection with your heart. So, however, if you place your attention and awareness within your heart, that's where the energy will flow. So to come back down into the heart. Now, the other thing I wanted to say about the chatter in the mind is that it can get really, really loud. Like if something crap happens in your world and you don't necessarily connect with that heart space, because so much energy and awareness and attention goes into the mind. It's been my experience that is like a practice, and it's about forming a relationship both with your heart, but also forming a relationship with your mind, because at the core and at the essence, the mind is not who you are. So I like to actually see that chatter as like a little child, like maybe like a little 3-year-old that's wanting my attention. And rather than giving it my attention, I actually thank it. Like I literally say inside, okay, mind, all those thoughts, thank you for sharing. And what I find is that once it's acknowledged and it's appreciated in that way, it tends to slow down. And then more thoughts will come up, and I thank the mind for sharing that chatter. And then I'll notice that space between the thoughts. And then what I like to do is to put my attention awareness on that space between thoughts rather than the actual thoughts themselves, but to come into that space between thoughts. And that's how I tend to clear the chatter within the mind. And Eckhart Tolle, he talks a lot about this space of no mind. And I've experienced that space a lot, but what I found is that I sort of got lost in that space of no mind and lost in the present moment. But instead I use that space as a space to then reconnect to the essence of who I are, to reconnect to a deeper space within me, and to reconnect back to the heart. So yeah, it's a matter of like, okay, being aware of the chatter, being aware of the volume it speaks at, whether it's quite loud, how fast it speaks at, whether it's speaking quite quickly, the pitch, whether it's like a high pitch or a low pitch, and then to treat that, notice all of the words going in the mind, treat it like a little child, thank it for sharing gently, like acknowledge it, and then just notice what happens after that. You'll probably find there's a space, and then you can instead place your attention, your awareness on that space between thoughts. You'll probably notice that space, that gap grows longer and longer and longer. And then from that space, you can come into the deeper space within your heart. Does that make sense, Lisa? I hope so. And yeah, anyone, feel free to leave comments in the chat box there. I think in the future I'll probably look at doing Zoom so that we can be like live one-on-one and ask the questions that way. Awesome, Lisa. That's really good sense. Good that it makes sense. Yeah, it can get really loud, the mind. We've been trained from quite a young age, especially in the Western culture, to go up into the head, and it can be I call it a mind field, not a minefield, but a mind field, because when I go up there, it can blow up, and it gets so loud. It can get so loud. But yeah, Svetlana, it's yeah, I totally agree with that as well. That it can take us away from the essence of who we are. And it's a big thing I work with clients, is like how to actually turn that off and how to form a better relationship with the head. And it often talks quite negatively, for me anyway, and my clients. And what I find, it often tends to make a lot of judgments and a lot of assessments of what's actually occurring in reality. And my experience of that is that then it cuts off the connection that I have with people. It also cuts off the connection that I have with myself. So maybe I hand it over. What's other people's experience of the mind? So you can write that in the comments. How is it for you guys, living in the mind? Okay, I've got another question. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for being here on the call. Thanks for interacting. It's really great. So Lisa's asked, do I do anything to honor the heart space? Absolutely. It's sort of the essence of who I am, you know. So if I don't honor that heart space, it's like I don't respect who I am in the world. So one of the ways to do that is that I tend to listen to the heart. So I'll go into my heart space and spend time in there, being in the heart, but also listening to the heart. There's a voice within the mind that we're all very familiar with, but at the same time, there's also a voice within the heart. It's often like sort of like a gentle whisper in my experience. And I take the time to listen to the heart. I take the time to listen to the words it has to say, and it often doesn't say many words at all. But after I listen to the heart, I take that time to honor the heart by thanking the heart. like just to be sitting in my heart and just saying, thank you, heart. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for helping to guide me through life. And what I find is when I honor the heart in that way, then the connection grows stronger, because the heart can be like a shy little child in that it can get scared, especially in the world, get scared to express itself, get scared to share itself in the world. But when I allow the heart to open up like that, to open up the connection with the heart, I find if I then thank the heart, hey, heart, thank you for coming today, thank you for being here, then that connection grows stronger and stronger. And what my experience of that is that rather than trying to embrace the heart, a period happened where a shift happened, and then the heart started to embrace me. So rather than identifying so much with my head, it's more like the heart is who I've become in a lot of ways. Does that make sense? How about you? Is there anything you do to honor your heart space? Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Christina. I just wanted to ask before we go on just to the group, can everyone view the comments that come through? I haven't really dealt with Facebook Live before. Maybe if everyone can read the comments, just say yes. Or if you can't read people's comments coming through, I'm not sure if they're private or not, if you could say no. Hello? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, that's great. That's good. Having some tech issues. This is my mind sort of trying to kick in, but I'm trying to just come back as much as I can. It's the biggest practice for me is to share this space. Yeah, Christina, emotional feelings in the inner child can rock you to your core. I totally get that. Especially the negative feelings such as, well, anxiety, such as stress. The flip side of that, like depression, it can seem overwhelming. And yeah, I've had a number of sort of burnouts over the years where I haven't been able to really function that well in the world, because it's like my whole being gets overwhelmed by, for me, it's mainly anxiety. That's been my experience. And yeah, it rocks me to my core as well. And it can be really difficult in that space to sort of find ground, if that makes sense. I spent a lot of time in nature grounding, and we shared about that at the festival. Thank you for sharing that in that space as well. But what I always go back to is my heart, even in the midst. Excuse me. Even in the midst of those feelings going on inside, in the middle of all the negative emotions going on inside, I know that right in the middle of my heart center, which is that space there, I know that, sorry, I know that nothing can touch that space. And for me, that's sort of like the foundation. It's sort of like the ground that I go back to. So at the start of the call, we did a little meditation about placing a couple of fingers on our heart center, closing our eyes and breathing down into that space. And even if you do that on the call right now, just in your own rhythm, breathing into your heart center, you'll notice that there's a sense of peace and that there's a sense of calm within that heart space. So when those negative emotions, those negative feelings come up, they can still be coursing through the body, and I get that. I experience that too. But what I tend to do is then to come back to the heart space and to place my attention and awareness on there, even in the midst of anxiety, because I know that peace doesn't go anywhere. I know that sense of calm doesn't go anywhere. Nothing can touch it. It's almost like there's a little crystal. I don't tend to give out visuals because it can send people back into their head, but it's sort of like this little space within the heart center that is indestructible, and that space comes from source awareness. It comes from the divine, for one of other word. They're just labels. Some people call that space God. But within the middle of your heart center, even in the midst of all those negative feelings, it's a place that you can return to. Even now on the call, with your eyes open, you can place your attention and awareness on that heart center within. So I hope does that resonate? Does that sort of make sense, Tina? Yeah, okay. Svetlana, Naomi, sorry, I'm not sure why the comments aren't working there. It's a little bit strange. Maybe if you'd like to ask anything, Naomi, you could do that through Svetlana. She's got access to the feed here today. Might be a bit of a delay in doing that, but maybe that's a workaround. Yeah, Penny. Yeah, Christina. Yeah. So it's a place you can always return to. Yeah. Any other questions people are having about sort of the negative feelings, the emotional space that can come up? Any particular feelings in particular that people have, that you have questions about? Such as fear or doubt or self-worth or depression or any of those sort of feelings people wanted to ask about? No? Forgiveness. Okay. Forgiveness. Ooh. Pressure of society. Yeah. Powerful feeling. Yeah, the heart center, I assume that you're talking about there, Naomi. Good to hear comments. Okay, so we'll go through those. Forgiveness, pressure of society. Yeah. But forgiveness is a big one, especially for in our mind. The mind can get really locked in. The mind can come into a space where it holds on to what's happened in the past, but not necessarily what's happened, but the story that it makes around what happens. It's like, I'm not going to let that go. So with forgiveness, I'll close my eyes because I'm just listening to what my heart wants to share around forgiveness. But within your heart speaks the language of love. Your heart speaks the language of connection. Your heart speaks the language of forgiveness. The heart knows that every single person in the world also has a heart. And that's what connects us. Yet the heart also knows that within the mind of everyone, there's a disconnect that happens. And the heart, all it wants to do is forgive that space, because the heart knows that what people do isn't necessarily coming from their heart in the world. And people can do really, really shitty things. It happens. especially if they're locked into an idea or a concept or a way things should be, rather than listening to their heart. And that's sort of why I'm wanting to hold these heart circles, to bring people back into their heart, so that the actions that people take in the world, that you take in the world, are coming from that heart space, and then there's less of a dis that happens, less of a disconnect that happens. So specifically around forgiveness, it can be hard, especially when those things happen. But if you can take the time to, thank the mind for sharing, acknowledge what happened. It's not to say that what happened is going to go away. But if you can take the time to acknowledge what's happened and resolve that on some level in your mind, but then come back into your heart and ask your heart what it wants to say around what happened, it'll often be a much gentler space and a place of forgiveness. And what I do is that if someone does something that I don't necessarily like and it's a bit of a disconnect, I can have that judgment in my head, but coming back into my heart, it's always a place that I return to. But then with the person that may have done something wrong or done something bad to me, I try and talk to the heart center within them, to connect to that space within them, and to speak from that to that space rather than to speak to their head. Because I know that if I'm in my head talking to the head of another person and we're having a disagreement or an argument, or there's a level of conflict there, it doesn't go well. But if I can stay in my heart and then speak to the heart of another, that's often when the forgiveness can happen. Does that make sense, Penny? Okay, there's a bit of a lag. And the other one, I'm not sure if I can scroll in the comments. No, I can't scroll up. The other question that we were talking, okay, cool, thanks, Fanny. Yeah, and that's a practice. It can be tough, especially when someone does something really, really super shitty to us, to have the courage to come into the heart and then to speak from that space to their heart and not come into the judgment. And what I find is that if I speak from that heart space and resonate at that heart space, it's often like two guitars, that if you place two guitars next to each other and they're in tune, and you play the string, the string of the other guitar will vibrate at that same frequency. And it's similar, especially around if you're opening up a space of forgiveness, is that if you come into your heart and you stay in your heart and you remain in your heart, then it forms a vibration that goes out to the other person. They're more likely to come down into that space. But first and foremost, it's about finding that space within you and then coming from that space in the world. So it's a big one, but thanks for the question. I hope that helps. The other question we had earlier was, if my memory serves me correct, was around the pressure of society. Naomi, heart-to-heart forgiveness, yeah. And it takes courage. It really, really, really takes courage to... I think the word core in French, le français, je comprends un peu le français, a little bit of French. The word core, I believe, is the word heart in French. Is that right? So for me, the word courage is like the rage of the heart. And to have that space of forgiveness and to have the courage to speak from that space, especially in a mind-driven society in which we are in, it does core. Yeah, okay, core. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Core. But yeah, if we're in that connected heart space within us, in a conflict situation where someone else has gone up into their head, it takes a huge amount of courage to speak from the heart space. Yeah. Okay, and Svetlana, core, okay. Core. I think it's an in-joke, perhaps. The other question we had, I think, Svetlana, you asked a question about the pressure of society and feeling that in your body as a negative emotion. Is that what I remember? Or maybe someone else asked that question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Penny. We'll go into Svetlana's question about the pressure of society. But yeah, at least a heart-to-heart conversation. That's where it's at. Like, that's what I feel humanity needs to return to. Because can you imagine a world where every single person was in their heart and coming from their heart and speaking from their heart? It'd be a beautiful world. There wouldn't be a disconnect. There wouldn't be as much anger. There wouldn't be wars. There wouldn't be all the disharmony. It'd be more a world of connection. And that's sort of why I'm doing this, doing what I'm doing. So yeah, continually come from that space. And it's not that the heart's always soft and gentle and fluffy, even though it can be, but sometimes like this courage, the rage of the heart, sometimes the heart is just like, look, you need to, and it can have that level of intensity. And that's the rage of the heart I'm speaking about, but it does it in a very loving way, you know? That's the difference between the head and the heart in that space. Yeah, it'd be super beautiful if the world was all connected with their heart, and it's possible. Like Indigenous people I've spent time with in Australia, they're very heart connected, and that's how the culture was for the most part. Sure, they'd have wars, but within the tribe, it was all about this deeper connection. Yeah, so coming back to Svetlana, thank you for your question about the pressure. Like when I was an engineer working 60-hour weeks in an office environment, the amount of pressure that I felt within my body, like the stress and the overwhelm, it was, yeah, hold on to that question, Naomi, and I might ask you if you can copy and paste it. I can't see the stream, but as I speak, yeah, we'll come back to that question if that's okay. So yeah, the pressure, that I can feel, and it was overwhelming, like this sense of overwhelm to perform, to achieve, to do everything that I could to excel, and it's still sort of in me in a way. But for me, I feel it as like tension in my shoulders. Everyone feels this sort of pressure in different areas of their body. Some people feel it in their throat, their jaw might tense. Other people feel it in their stomach, like their solar plexus will get tight. People come to me with those sort of complaints. People have like lower back pain because they hold tension in there. But this pressure can lead to those bodily sensations. And also high blood pressure, it can come in the form of that. So it has a huge impact on our sense of well-being. The pressure of society, but it can also be like internal pressure, like self-imposed pressure. But I think you're talking more about the societal pressure. And what's happened for me now is that I don't really get sucked into the external pressure as much anymore, because instead I come back into my heart and ask my heart, okay, heart, what is it that you want to do in the world? And I had to actually distance myself from society in a lot of ways. I went on a massive bike journey and ended up cycling to Paris, like from Budapest to Paris, and stayed with Naomi. But that rite of passage, like that 7 months of solo time on a bicycle in nature, it sort of like removed me from the societal pressure that I was feeling. I'd just come out of engineering world. And then that gave me the time and the space to come into my heart. I didn't necessarily have the techniques to go in there that I have now. So I could have shortcut that journey. But the I needed to disconnect from society, to let go of the pressure, and then to come into my own space and to see what it is that my heart wanted to share with the world. And there's a natural rhythm, like when you come into that heart space. Yeah, it was a really courageous journey. David Legrand, I think Tichuan was telling me. But yeah, it was, yeah, this is the rage of the heart. This is the courage thing. But I had to come back into that space, and to come into the rhythm of the heart. And there is a rhythm, and it gets really loud now that when I go into society, I'm here in Malmo, it's probably a city of, I don't know, 200,000-300,000 people. And there's a pace, there's a rhythm that's happening. It's just what happens. It happens in Sydney, it happens in Paris, it happens in the bigger cities because it's more of a mind space. But when I go into the country, there's a slower rhythm and it's more of a heart space. But my practice is that even in a city such as this, I come into my heart and I can notice that there's this faster pace happening. And I intentionally come into my heart and walk at the rhythm of my heart. And my fiance sometimes walks a lot faster, and she says, like, look, you're walking a bit slow right now. I'm like, okay, I get that, but that's the rhythm that I need to be in right now. And she's happy to slow down to that pace. So that's one way, like, just as a practice, like if you're feeling the pressure of society, like you can see, okay, well, how are you moving in the world? Are you moving quite rapidly, quite quick? Or are you going at more of a slower pace? That's one way that you can come out of that. But also taking the time to come down into your heart, and rather than listening to the pressure of the external world, of society, to then come into the heart. There's a voice within the heart, and you can instead listen to what the heart has to say, what the directives from the heart are. And what you'll find is that sort of mitigates the pressures of society, and you start to be living from your heart and what's true for you rather than the pressures of society. And that's not to say to walk away from society. It's not about that at all. It's about connecting with society from your heart space. But to do that's a huge journey, especially if you have like commitments in the external world that you need to fulfill, such as like kids or a job or other responsibilities. But even in that, you can listen to your heart, what it has to say, and also the rhythm of your heart, and to start to move in alignment with that. And that can be a journey. That can take years to then realign with your heart rhythm. Hope that makes sense, Svetlana. And if there's anything else you wanted to ask about that with the pressure of society, yeah, please leave that in the comments. Okay, Naomi, super mind people. Oh my God. That can be a challenge, like how to, yeah, I'll go for about an hour today, so I've got about a quarter of an hour left. How to interact with others from the heart, especially with super mind people. So I think what you're trying to say there is that you're having some dealings with someone who is very much in the head. And that's not a bad thing. It's just sort of where society is at the moment. But my experiences of that is that if someone's very much in their minds and I'm in my heart and I've made a commitment that's where I want to live my life from, the first thing that happened to me is that I started to come into contact with a lot more heart-centered people because there was more of a vibration that was happening. And what I found coming into that heart space is that less and less mind people have come into my world. But that's not to say that I don't interact with mind-centered people. And I find it quite challenging to stay in my heart, because with the mind energy, it's a lot faster vibration, whereas the heart energy is a lot slower vibration. It's been my experience. So around mind-centered people, rather than listening to the words that they actually say, it's not that I don't listen, but I try and listen to what they're trying to say beyond the mind, if that makes sense. Like if someone's talking really, really fast, it's like, okay, well, beyond all of this busyness, what's actually going on for the person? Because everyone has a heart, everyone has feelings, everyone has emotions. So around the mind people, that's the space I try and hold, is to remain in my heart. And then I also ask my heart, okay, heart, like even around the person, heart, what is it you want to share right now? And even with the person talking, I'm still like being there with the person. Okay, heart, what do you want to share right now? And it'll often interrupt them, and I'll say, yeah, look, I'm actually feeling a bit stressed right now. I'm just wondering if we can have a bit of silence in the conversation. And that takes courage to do, especially if you've got a prior relationship with this person and they see you in a certain way, to actually have the courage to speak from that heart space. But what I find then is that if I share from my heart around a very mind-based person, is that it'll sort of bring them into more of a heart resonance. Sort of like the example I gave before about two guitars, and you pluck one string and then the other guitar will resonate at that sort of similar frequency. I find around mind-centered people, if I stay in my heart and then really ask my heart, what do you want to say right now? And then have the courage to say that, it changes the energy rather than being in a headspace. Like it sort of drops that vibration to more of a heart frequency. Does that sort of make sense? Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag, on the chat. But yeah. So just try and hold that your center. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Yeah, just try and hold that, especially in a mind-dominated world. There's not a lot of room for the heart. Yeah, it does take practice as well. Yeah, exactly, Christina. Because everyone's just longing to come back to that space. Everyone. It's when we were kids, like we're just in that space all the time, and everyone knows it, on a feeling level. But then their experience is like very much up here, and it's quite stressful. I've had Supermind people open up to me about, oh wow, I've never felt, or I haven't felt this level of peace for a long time. I just thought that this is who I was, right? So they don't really get in their experience of this deeper connection. But if you can hold that heart center space within you, and it's hard in the world, and practice coming from that space, especially around Supermind people, it puts that out, and it almost sends them there in a way, on some level. And especially if you can ask your heart, okay, heart, what do you want to say right now? And then the authenticity will come into the conversation. And it's a beautiful, yeah, authentic as well, Christina. It's the biggest teacher, is to come from that heart space, and because it allows an opening for the people in your life that you love, to connect with the essence of who they are. There's no bigger gift, I feel, that we can give people but than to be in that heart space. Okay, just read your comment, Naomi. When there's fear, there's also a resistance to tune into the heart. For fear of what will make, then let go of. Letting go of. I'm not quite following the question. Are you talking about fear within yourself, Naomi, to come from that space, or are you talking more about fear that might come up in the other person to let go of something? Just got to show you that something really beautiful has just come up. Yeah, is that 2 ducks here? Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah, so just wait for that to come through. Yeah, Lisa, some people are very scared to go into the heart and do not know what the heart speaks. Yeah, I mean, I was having this conversation with a friend last night who's quite a lot in his mind, beautiful man, and he was, yeah, very cute ducks. He was like, he was expressing that he can hear his heart, but he can also hear his mind, and he was very scared to let go of his mind and to come further into his heart space. And I get that, and it's sort of like the identity does everything it can to be alive, and that makes sense. And the head does a really, 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 really good job in the world, and that's why I thank the head for sharing, because it does a really good job. I don't just say, yeah, thank you for sharing. Like, I really acknowledge it because it does its best. But then to go into a space of no mind and then come into the heart, it's almost like the head and the identity doesn't have a role. So it's almost like the head and the identity dies. And that's where the fear comes from, because the identity doesn't like to die. Obviously, no being really likes to die. Yeah, I got to show you this. It's not even closer. Yeah. Yeah. So the identity doesn't like to die, but and that's where the fear comes from. But one thing that I've done is come into the heart, and rather than listening to the head as a director, I instead have come into my heart and allow my heart to be the director of my world. And then I often ask my heart, okay, heart, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to create in the world? What is it that you want to share? What is it that you want to speak? And then once that inspiration from the heart comes through, I say to my heart says to my head, okay, head, now you can go and create that. Like, what are some of the things that you can do to create what my heart wants to create? And then it gives the identity of the mind like something to do. Like, for example, this live stream right now, it was like, okay, heart, what do you want to do? I just want to speak. Okay, how do you want to do that? Well, you figure it out. How can you speak to people around the world? And so I sat down with a pen and paper, and my head came up with these things to do, which was like to create a Facebook event, a live event, invite people to come, and see what opens up in the space. But to let go of the mind and be in a space of no mind all the time, I don't know if that's the most powerful space to be in. But if the directives are coming from the heart, if the inspiration is coming from the heart, and then the head can do stuff because it loves to do stuff, but it's working in alignment with the heart, I feel that's where all of the fear goes, like it sort of leaves, and a deeper sense of peace, a deeper sense of calm comes in, because your inner and outer worlds start to align. But what I find is that if I follow the directives of my head in the world, yeah, it tends to go not so well, not so smoothly. So just reading Naomi's comment, similar to Penny's comments, take courage to stay true to your heart. Your heart and your resistance. Yeah. Yeah, that resistance. Yeah, that does come up. And that I'll just tune in to what my heart has. Yeah, the resistance comes because it's coming from a different space. It's sort of like I grew up in a place called Bendigo in Australia, and it's a very Anglo-Saxon place. There's a lot of white-skinned people like myself, very Anglo-Saxon. But then what happened is a number of refugees came to Bendigo, and there was a lot of conflict happening in Bendigo. They built a mosque, for example, and that just wasn't part of the fabric of Bendigo at the time. It was like, whoa, they're making this mosque, and I think, someone threw paint on the mosque, and there was all this animosity and aggression towards the Muslims that came. But that aggression, that anger is often, if you're underlying the anger, is fear. And the fear often comes from being different. So coming from a heart space in the world is different because it's like a mind space. And that's where the fear comes from. And it's sort of just where the world is. I wish I had an antidote to it. I wish I had a magic wand that I could touch humanity on their head and say, okay, head, go to the heart. But that's not realistic. It's going to take time for that to happen. But it's more around for you, like where do you really want to come from? Like we can always come from the mind space. That's open to everyone as well. But it's more like what is it that makes you feel the most empowered? What is not even empowered? That's the wrong word. But where is your authentic voice coming from? Is the authentic voice that wants to come through you, does that come from your mind? Or does that authentic voice come from a deeper space? And if that authentic voice comes from a deeper space, where is it that voice comes from? And you'll probably find that it comes from a heart space. And then it comes down to a choice as to whether you want to talk and communicate from like a head space, or whether you want to come from a deeper, more authentic space in the world. And then, if you're coming from that deeper, authentic space, and that's in alignment with your truth and where you want to come from in the world, that can cause some resistance, especially around people in your current reality, your current world, that may not be in alignment with that. And that can take some time to realign. And that's the journey that I've had to go through. And now, for example, instead of being in the engineering world, I've just come from a festival called the Space of Love, where there's a lot of people I just instantly connected with. And speaking from the heart with them was such a pleasure. And to hold a workshop space in the heart space with a group of men, and every single man got to speak from his heart. It was just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, or one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So, it's scary, especially if the reality that you live in, there's not a lot of heart connection in the world that you live in. Then it's a matter of creating that, if that speaks to you. But that's a choice. Yeah, does that sort of resonate? Yeah, the Space of Love, that was amazing festival. Okay. So getting up to about an hour, I'm starting to lose my voice a bit. But maybe if there's one more question that would like to come through, if there's one more question. Okay, that's great. Great, Naomi and Svetlana. and then start to find the people that you can resonate with, that you can have those heart conversations with. Spend time with them, because it allows that to open up deeper and deeper with you, to come deeper into that space, and it gives you a reference point. So now when I speak with like super mind people, it's like I've got a foundation because I've met so many other heart-centered people, and I've had that connection with them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So true, Christina. We need to find our heart tribe. It's really important. Okay, so if there's no more burning questions, I would just like to before closing, give, wait, I'll just write that down. I'll type on here. Okay, so www.David Styles. So apparently men can't multitask. I think it's true. Styles.com/talk. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about, just put a link in the chat, because I can only talk about so much, and it's sort of public, so you might want to go deeper onto this. Yeah, cool, that worked. But yeah, I've opened up my diary that if anyone on the call here wants to go deeper into this journey, or you'd just like to talk privately one-on-one with me about this heart connection work, yeah, there's a link there. There's a form that you can fill out, and we can connect live, either on Skype or by phone, if you want to go deeper into this heart connection journey. But just, it's a free call. But just before we go, I'd just like to end the call by just coming back into our heart. And thank you so much for everyone that's been on the call. It's the first ever Facebook Live that I've done. So I was, on my identity, was like super nervous, but my heart was like, yeah, just do it. And apologies again for all the tech issues at the start. I think I might move over to Zoom, we'll see. But yeah, just before we end, I'd just like to finish with a little meditation, just to come back into the heart. But yeah, thank you everyone for being on the call, and thank you for all the comments and all the likes and loves and all that's been here. Yeah, merci beaucoup, Noemi. And really, I'd love to have a chat with you. It's been quite a long time since we've spoken. So yeah, even that form, or I'm on WhatsApp, or yeah, we'll see. Hi Sky. Wow, you're back in my engineering days. That's a long time ago. Hope it's going well for you. Thank you for being on the call. Yeah, thank you, Lisa, and thank you for being a big part of my life. You're one of the first, we're talking about Soul Tribe, you're one of the first people that I ever spoke to about this deeper reality within me, and thank you so much for opening up this space and just being there for me over the years. It's really beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for coming. So if any other comments or questions, just let me know. But yeah, I think it's best we end now, and before my voice gives out, and come into that heart space. So again, it's good just to close your eyes. I'll guide you through it. Just close your eyes, just finding a comfortable space where you are, in your chair or wherever you are right now. And just placing your hand or a couple of fingers on your heart center. It's a little place just here in the middle of the chest, about the size of a golf ball. Just placing your hand or heart on your heart center, eyes closed. And just feeling how that space is within you. And just through the breath, like almost like imagining a pipe coming down into that heart center, into that heart space. Yeah, just breathing into your heart center through the breath, just in your own rhythm. And likewise, breathing out from your heart center, just in your own rhythm. And just noticing how it feels within your heart center. You'll probably notice as you breathe into the heart center, into the heart space, there's a sense of peace. And maybe a sense of calm within your heart center. And as you breathe into your heart center, you'll probably notice that it expands slightly on an in-breath and that it expands slightly on an out-breath, or contracts slightly on an out-breath. Almost like a jellyfish expanding and contracting within your heart center. And just being with the feeling within your heart center. Just noticing how that space within you is. It's often a sense of peace, a sense of calm in your heart center. And staying in that space within your heart, just in your own time, slowly starting to open your eyes while staying in your heart center. And just noticing how the world is whilst being in your heart. And staying in your heart, you'll probably notice that around you, like within you, is that sense of peace, within you is that sense of calm. But the world around you also is probably in a sense of peace and in a sense of calm. It's a reflection, a mirror from where you are within yourself. So I encourage you to stay in that space as much as you can. It's a space you can always return to. It's always there, even like we spoke about on the call, when the negative emotions come up, when the pressure from society comes up, this space within you is always there. It's always just waiting for you to return to. So I hope you've enjoyed being on the call. Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I love seeing you blossom too. Yeah, thank you for being on the call. I'll just put that link again. davidstiles.com/talk. So yeah, if you want to explore that further, if you want to deepen this experience, we can set up a time to call. It's a free call. Love to connect, and thank you for being on the call. Hope you all have a lovely day, and yeah, I'll probably try and do one of these each week. So stay tuned for more. Thank you. Much love to everyone here. Thank you.